welcome back to another episode of the Whimsy Stories Legacy Challenge. As you can probably tell by the title of today's video, this is like a brief intermission in the challenge so that we can get some background, some lore going, okay, to kind of like catapult us into the rest of this generation. So if you watched last episode, which if you have not, I will link it up on the top there for you, then you will know that not only is Celine pregnant, but they are also now engaged. So I think it's official that Blue is a part of the story. So whenever Sims become a part of a major storyline, I want to give them a family, I want to give them a background, just so that it's a little more fleshed out. In the very first episode of the series, you guys got a really good idea of where Celine came from, but we don't really know any of that in regards to Blue. I'm going to pop up just a little trigger warning on the screen for just some themes discussed in the lore of Blue. You can skip ahead to this time when we do a little makeover of the house if you don't want to hear about all of that. And on that note, you might notice the house behind them is a little bit different, but we will get to that. So let's hop on over to CAS and I will take you through how I made Blue's family. We'll see where they live. We'll talk about the dynamics. We'll do all of that. So Blue grew up in a house that was essentially defined by fear. His father, Frank, was a heavy drinker for Blue's entire life, if not longer. He was always very angry, volatile, abusive, both physically and verbally. There was a lot of domestic violence in the home. Most of that anger was aimed at Blue and his mom, Rosa. Blue's sister Sierra actually avoided a lot of that and holds a really good relationship with their dad to this day. So we start off with Rosa, who was once very full of life, as you can probably tell by the way she looks, but has been worn down over the years. Now, you know, she barely has a voice of her own. She mostly just spends her days cleaning the trailer, keeping everything in order, and kind of just doing whatever Frank demands or what she thinks Frank wants, just to avoid setting him off. Blue loves his mother deeply. They do have a distant relationship, but he can't understand or respect her decision to stay with his dad. Watching her shrink into somebody who simply survives under Frank has kind of fueled this like rage in Blue. Blue did have a sister, so he didn't grow up completely alone. His younger sister Sierra, so he is currently around like 30 years old, and Sierra's like in her early 20s, so she came around when Blue was in elementary school. Sierra was always treated very differently. Frank did favor her, so Frank and her actually have a really good relationship. She was always showered with attention. She was always kept on his good side. And Rosa and Sierra have always had a good relationship too. So Sierra doesn't really have any negative relationships with the family per se, but Blue has grown distant from her just because she still lives at home and Blue won't go home because he just does not want to return to that life. So Sierra never fully like turned against Blue, even though maybe her dad tries to pit the family against him a little bit. When they were kids, Blue shielded Sierra from Frank's outbursts, and I think that's part of why she maintained this like positive relationship with Frank her whole life. Blue always stepped in when things got too loud or distracted Sierra when their parents were fighting in their room. And so even though maybe they don't talk every day, Sierra and Blue do have this like mutual respect for each other. She is still pretty wrapped up in their world, and I could see in the future maybe Blue trying to help her get out of living at home and out of the lifestyle she currently has, which she is currently basically living like a life of crime. She basically just steals for a living. She's not really doing anything to better herself, and we'll kind of, I hope, get into that because I think Sierra could be really successful, but right now is just kind of doing just enough to get by. Blue's high school aged, he did just decide to leave. There was nothing left for him in that trailer park. It was just more of the same every day. Frank yelling, Blue's mom not ever doing anything about it, and Sierra just kind of getting treated very differently from Blue. So he did leave around the age of 16 with nothing but the clothes on his back, and that is how he ended up in the hostel. And you fast forward about 10 years and that's where we are now. This is the trailer park that Frank, Rosa, and Sierra have lived in Blue's entire life. This is where Blue escaped in high school. He can't understand how they never want to change their life. They don't want to better themselves. They just stay in one place. And even though he has been struggling with homelessness for the last, decade or so, he feels like he's accomplished more personally than they have in this trailer park. Now that we've met Frank, Rosa, and Sierra, let's hop back over to Blue and Celine and give their house a little bit of a facelift. Honestly, as soon as last week's episode ended, I knew I wasn't very happy with the house. I just was not super familiar with building like micro homes, but I did a lot of looking examples up on Pinterest, and I think that the layout that we end up with actually works a lot better, and I think it'll work better for when we're able to upgrade to when she ages up to an adult, because we can kind of go out to the side and the lot won't look as weird. I did have to revert to like a 3-tile bathroom, which means we won't have a bathtub right now, but I think that's okay because infants I believe you can bathe in sinks now, so that should be fine. And then by the time they age up, hopefully we can upgrade the house and we'll have space for a bathtub. I was very much pushing my luck here with our money, but I really just wanted to get some counters in and get an idea for the layout. So I placed some, I believe these are snowy escape counters, just to get an idea. I placed a rug, just a couple things here and there. I basically dwindled our money completely, but I think it looks much, much cuter. Well, here we are again. That is actually going to do it for today's Whimsy Stories episode. I know it wasn't long and I know there wasn't any gameplay, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to give Blue a full background story before we really dive into the rest of the generation. And now, we can kind of tie in his family dynamic in with what we know of Celine's family dynamic, which are very, very different. So I'm very curious to see how that all plays out. I could see kind of Celine wanting to connect with Blue's sister and maybe helping her out down the road. I don't really know. You guys let me know in the comments if you have any ideas for how to kind of tie them into the story. With that being said, I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and I hope to catch you guys back here soon, hopefully in a few days, with another episode of Whimsy Stories. Bye, friends.